we're putting this out as a whole so people can watch this as a press conference. So from the public's point of view, at the end of the day, it's the MLCs, MHKs have to vote for this, don't they? Nothing can be done without a vote from Tynwald to change the way it's all done.
That's correct.
How are you going to get turkeys to vote for Christmas?
Well, Paul, the first point is that we're all here because Tynwald have already decided there should be one man, one vote.
I don't disagree with you saying that, but will they vote for it?
Well, they've already voted to say each constituency should have an equal number of MHKs. So, therefore...
Mr Groves, you know well and truly your time in the House.
But therefore it follows from that they're saying there must be changes to some constituencies so that those that are currently 3 or 2 or 1 all become 1, 2, 3 or 4 or whatever, as Bob said. So they have already voted, all but 2 of them, in favour of this principle, 2 of the existing House.
That's one thing, though. Doing it is another. You do take what I'm saying. I'm not trying to be just difficult.
So the reason why we asked you all here today is it's very important that we get as much air under these issues to the public as possible and get as much view from the public as possible. So we're holding, as you'll see in the press release, and we hope you'll publicise it for us, we're holding a set of public meetings throughout the 4 regions, if you like, north, south, east and west, to try and get people involved in what we're doing. Sally will tell you now a bit more in detail. We've also involved St Ninian's High School and the children there using Facebook and Twitter and all the rest of it to promote what we're asking for here. We'd like to outline a bit more on that.
Yes, I think...
Again, to get interest from the widest range of people we can.
Yes, and really our view is that if we have sufficient public consultation, that can't be ignored by our representatives. They are representatives of the public after all. And I think that when we had our last report in Tynwald, we were very encouraged by the amount of support that we were given by the majority of the members of the House of Keys. I think everybody acknowledges that change is needed. We're now looking at how that change is put forward.
I can't remember many having it in their manifesto, though, as a burning issue that they'd like to see done. And if it's not in their manifesto, they don't feel...
But we were appointed by the Council of Ministers, that's all that we can put forward.
And this has been tried many times before, hasn't it?
It has, yes.
I think you're right, Paul, but if I may say so, suggestions about reviewing the boundaries have been made for 32 years. You've seen the reports before, and Tynwald's in the past have said, yes, we agree with what's been said, but when it's come to shove, nothing has happened. And we believe that that's because all those reports went into a lot of detail from the very beginning, almost saying you need these democratic principles in place, and that means that this street must move from that constituency into that constituency, and we'll be dividing communities, we'll be dividing parishes and so on. And naturally, members of the Keys and Tynwald said, we don't like that. This committee under Sally's chairmanship is trying to take a different view. The interim report was the first part of that process where we said, can we look at the principles first? Don't get confused with which street might move into whatever. Let's establish fundamental principles, which Tynwald has agreed to. They've all voted for it. So it should be more progressive for them now to deal with the next lot of recommendations we may eventually make, which we want to be made essentially by the public. And that's where you come in.
And I can say that we have no preconceptions at all about which combination of members per constituency. We've got no idea at all. Right. In fact, haven't even discussed which is best.
When do you think this will actually go for a vote in Tynwald? What year are we talking about?
We are committed, and we were told that we should come back to Tynwald by December of this year. So we will have finished our consultation and be making... So
sometime in 2013 this should go before Tynwald?
Well, 2020 by December this year we will have another report. Whether it's an interim report or not will depend on how we get on with the public consultation. But we've enthusiastically engaged in the public consultation, and we found that most of the public have been enthusiastic back. So we are hoping that we're going to get a good response in the next couple of months. And while we're doing this consultation, we'll then have the quite rather difficult task of trying to analyse what everybody has said and the different views that have come across. And even with the consultation we've had with the MHKs, we found different views for different reasons that we hadn't thought of before. So we're going to have to take all of that evidence and then try and come to some conclusions. That's probably going to take us a few months, but we anticipate that we should be able to come to with some sort of report back to Tynwald by December, as we're bound to do.
We are very appreciative that the members of the House of Keys and Tynwald are engaging in this process. They're not thinking, I'm a turkey and it's Christmas. And when we sent this template out saying, do you want 6 2s, 8 3s, 24 1s, whatever, the vast majority of them have responded simply saying we would choose that. Fact is, there is a wide variety of choice amongst the MHKs, but they have set down in writing what their preference would be, and that is engagement. It's much more than perhaps previous Tynwalds have been able to do.
Will that come public knowledge, what they want? Will that be seen?
Eventually, I imagine that would form part of the evidence to this committee.
The evidence will
we're very
largely be available as far as
with the process.
Yeah.
Paul, I don't think I recognise your mischievous doubts about ducking issues, but frankly, I don't think this time round I don't think Tim can afford to do that. The island is setting itself up increasingly as an independent nation on a world stage with a world voice. Yes, it may have the oldest continuous parliament in the Western Hemisphere and all that, but it's also got the most undemocratic, and it can't allow itself to be seen to be pilloried by those in other nations. Say, well, it's all very well you're saying this, that and the other to us, but by the way, why don't you get a democratic parliament? It can't afford to do that. It could have done decades ago, but it can't now.
Do you see at the next general election that things will be different? Do you honestly believe that?
Yes.
I think, Paul, the other point that you made before about turkeys at Christmas and that members might not want to vote to change, you've got to cast your mind back. The boundaries have always changed. That's what our research has shown us for many, many times over many, many years. The parliamentary process and how democracy is delivered has not always been like we know it today. It has been completely different. And if you go back a few short years to the implementation of the ministerial system, there were massive boundary changes then, and that isn't that long ago in parliamentary terms. So let's not get in a mould of, well, they'll never change. The parliamentary boundaries have had to change, sort of relevant to population movements, and that's sort of, that has happened in the past, and our research has shown that's a very clear position. So we don't worry about that per se. That isn't a great concern that we have.